Welcome to Vin and Mike, episode 96. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
What's up, Vin? Oh, not much. Just the NFL playoffs.
Just a happy
Crazy
Monday
games.
after the NFL wildcard round. Well, the beginning. We still got 2 games tonight.
I know.
So
How about Buffalo? Them shoveling in the snow, getting ready for the game.
It's 20 degrees where everybody is, no matter where you're sitting in the United States today.
I know.
From Texas all the way up to Boston, where we're all sitting all over the place. So it's crazy weather. But we have a big slate of guests here, Mike. So yeah, do some introductions.
Yeah, I'll do the first introduction. So happy to have him as a guest host for the first time. He is a Patriots enthusiast, a Boston fan. I think my other guest in the bottom left wants to throw up with my team and his team, but we'll get to him in a second. But Trevor, you came at a good time. Prime and NFL playoffs. Trevor Hoffman, welcome. So happy.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm excited.
Yeah, and then of course our special guest today, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. All-decades team, 1990s, Texas A&M first-round pick, former Miami Dolphins offensive tackle, and a slight little time in Cincinnati, Richmond Webb. Hey, Richmond, how are you today?
Hey, gentlemen, how y'all doing?
Doing great. Happy to have you back after we had you probably about a little over like a year ago when we had John. So really happy to have you back. Appreciate you coming on. After our conversations prior to the new year and a little after, and knowing how you felt about Miami and everything. So, I'm just going to dive right into it, Richmond.
Okay.
Give me some of your thoughts about, the last few weeks of this team, with the 3 consecutive losses, but just the team as a whole during the whole year.
Well, I really felt good about the team, starting the season out. Some of the acquisitions we made, Jalen Ramsey, also bringing in defense coordinator Vic Fangio. So I thought the pieces were getting put in place. I like what we did in the draft, even though we didn't have a first-round draft pick. So felt really good. And then, as with anything, as time goes on, certain factors can change your perspective or whatever. But for the most part, up until probably the last month of the season, felt pretty good. We had some injuries. Jalen Ramsey got hurt early in the first half of the season. That was a concern because when you lose a player of that magnitude, it definitely affects whether you're offense or defensively, what you can do, and you have to change, what are you going to do and how you're going to try to defend teams. And so got him back about mid-season and definitely made an impact. So it was like a shift to where the defense really started to get better, and then the offense was really hot and they started to cool down. So it was almost like perfect timing. But I think the thing was, during those last few weeks, I think the disappointing thing was we had an opportunity to secure that second place or maybe compete for that first slot to have, at least a bye week. But we didn't get that. But to have that and win the division, I think we let that slip through. So I think that was really the disappointment. We had several injuries. I know that that's part of the game. Maybe we had more than others, but, I still think even with the injuries, I'm not saying we would have went all the way in the playoffs, but I think we had enough to still possibly secure and win that division. I think that was the toughest part to kind of get over toward the end of the season.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Home field advantage is so crucial in the playoffs. You were right there. I think there was a lot of talk about going to play Mahomes and Reed in Kansas City, the bitter cold, just how things happen at the end of the year. But overall, you were happy with the performance. I think Mike McDaniel did a fantastic job coaching this team. You were prone to a lot of injuries this year. What do you really want to see in the offseason that could take this team to the next level?
I think the thing that you got to have is, I think we got really good players, but, we were kind of playing musical chairs there at the offensive line position, just shifting guys around. But for them to perform the way that they did pretty much consistently and dealing with all the injuries we had, I really take my hats off to those guys. But I think the thing you really need is you really need depth. You can have the starters and stuff like that, but you need quality backups at, key positions. And, we lost Jason Phillips, then we lost Chubb, our two main outside rushers, and then the next week Van Ginkel goes down. So, we signed some guys late that you could tell it was a drop off there a bit. Just minimizing major injuries at key positions, and I know you're gonna have them sometime, but when you have an overabundance at one position, that really affects. And then just continue to develop some of the younger players to where we have more depth, more experience, to where even if a guy does drop off, it's not that big of a drop off, and you can continue on what your goal is for that season. So that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I've been watching Hard Knocks to win the season with the Dolphins. I'm just impressed with Coach McDaniel and how he just delivers his message and how down to earth he is and all the things that he's done and how the team is just so organized when I'm watching it. Each room, each position room, the position coaches that he has in there. Give me some of your feelings on Coach McDaniel, Richmond.
Yeah, everything I've heard coming out, I haven't personally met him, but everything I've heard is nothing but positive feedback from, elder statesmen like Marino, Nat Moore, guys that I played with Marino. Nat I missed by a few years, but when, those guys are not going to just sign on just to sign on. And when you hear that coming out of the organization, guys like that putting that stamp of approval on you, that's huge. And the way he interacts with the players, I think he's truly a player's coach, and I think he truly cares about player health and player safety. And I think a lot of times when players do get hurt, he's the one that say, no, maybe if we can rest you another week, we'll do that versus trying to rush to get you back out there. So the mindset has definitely changed since I've been in the league, and I think that's because the NFL have made changes as well to try to protect players, sometimes from themselves, because back then it was a different mindset. So I've had to adjust to that as well. But I know at the end of the day and long term, I have friends now that are really having issues since we've retired and played and starting to get older. So I can look at it now and say it is best for the players' long-term health. So I can respect that. But I've heard nothing but positive things about Coach McDaniel. I thought he's done a great job so far.
Yeah.
Trevor, I know you had a couple questions, so I'm going to put it to you.
Jump in, Trevor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I will jump in. I'm just curious because Richmond, I went to a game this year, and one thing that sort of stood out to me, I was in Miami and I watched the Dolphins beat the Patriots. But one thing that stood out to me watching the Dolphins live was sort of the speed, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And the running game really stood out to me in A-Chain and Mostert. So I guess my question for you is, are there any other bright spots sort of on this offensive side of the ball and maybe even the defensive side of the ball that you sort of hope that the coaching staff builds off of as we sort of approach the offseason and the draft and sort of as OTAs and the offseason, all that, sort of kicks off?
Yeah, I guess the only thing that I would like to see, and that's a great question, Trevor. I think the thing that possibly sticks out is, when you start the playoffs or you're getting ready for that playoff run or push or however you want to, word it or whatever. I think if we could have had a bigger back, bigger bruiser back that, it's good to have the speed and stuff like that. But when you get a change, when you change it up to where you have a different guy that, even if you got to line up and get 3 or 4 yards of carry, you get to control the time of clock, time possession. And that would have been huge for us this year, especially with all the injuries we had on defense. And you can keep the ball away from a guy like a Patrick Mahomes, having a Travis Kelce. You're going on the road, even though you didn't accomplish what you had, you can. Sometimes it's just, you don't have to be better than the team. You just got to keep the ball out of their hands. And in that situation, a lot of times that'll force that team to try to rush and hurry up because they know they're only going to get so many opportunities. and that's when they make mistakes. So I would like to add, that element to the game to where, if we got to line up and kind of play a little smash mouth football, especially toward the end of the year, I think that would be huge for us, because when you got to go, you play the Pittsburghs, you play the Baltimores, this and that, sometimes you got to meet force with force. And I think that's what you got to have. Even when playing within the division, sometimes playing the Jets, the Patriots, none of us like each other. I mean, ain't no need to know what it is. So it's like, if you can put pain on each other, hey, that's just what we're going to do. So that's the thing that when you asked that was a great question. The first thing thought out was having that type of running back to complement. And I think both complements each other because it's a different style, but it forces the defense to adjust. And when you keep hitting them one way or another, it makes it harder to defend.
Yeah. Let me ask you. I know you played in Buffalo, many times, but that cold out in Kansas City. Have you ever played in anything at that level? And even close, what's the difference of playing in that, compared to just like a 50-degree day?
Yeah, 50. Actually, 50. As long as it's not too windy, that's perfect football weather, because you really got to, do a lot of running to just like break a sweat and let it up. But, as long as you can breathe and stuff, that's really good football weather. But the two games that kind of stick out to me, we played in Chicago one year, and I can't remember exactly when. We played in New England one year, and the field was froze, and instead of having grass, they took like green spray paint and just painted the dirt green. But I mean, it was, the ground was so hard that your cleats wouldn't sink in, and so it was almost like playing on a slick surface. But it wasn't as cold as that game, but it was cold. And those are the two games. Buffalo, sometimes the wind and stuff for Buffalo was a turf surface, so both of those are ground. Dirt, this and that. So once it gets so cold, if the ground freezes up, you just, it ain't gonna thaw out. So you just got to try to find a way to deal with it. But those two games, one against New England and one against the Bears, those from what I remember were the two coldest games I think I played in.
So the real challenging part to it is just having that grip on the field, because it's just it's so solid. It's like ice. That's like the hardest thing when it comes to, because I noticed, like A-Chain and Mostert, they had like one cut and that was it. They could not do like anything else after that. So I'm guessing that ties into that as well.
Yeah, if you don't have good traction or good footage, it hurts offensive players just as well as defensive players. Sometimes it slows down the pass rush, but sometimes a guy makes a quick move, just like he slips, you can slip and the guy get by and, hit your quarterback. So that traction or trying to get your footing right, and it can definitely be a challenge. So it does affect you, and that's probably why you saw, like you said, they make one cut but couldn't make the other one, this and that. So yeah, it gets cold out there. I do tell you that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It just looks so painful watching those guys on the field, and Coach Reed's mustache turning into.
I saw that meme.
Yeah.
I never understood how some of these players, especially the linemen, Richmond, they don't wear any sleeves. They kind of just go out there and sort of own the coldness. I mean, I saw that in Kansas City the other night. It felt like minus 32 degrees, and some of these guys aren't even wearing sleeves.
Yeah, the thing is about the cold is, even though you don't have sleeves, you have like a thermal top where your arms might be out. And most of the time you'll be okay like that. And then when you get to the sideline, you always see everybody put on those big jackets or sit on the heated seat or whatever. The thing that I'm amazed at, and I can remember, I believe it was Buffalo, we were playing in, and it was a lady way up in the top deck, and she had on a bathing suit, and it was snow, and I know it was cold. And it's always cold or hot for the fans because you just got to sit there. At least the players, we kind of move around. You sitting there unless you got your flask and got your few spirits in there trying to stay warm. But It was guys in Kansas City, no shirt on. This, and I was like, I don't know how you do that, and I don't want to know how you do it. But that's the thing that I'm amazed at.
Yeah. A lot of alcohol for sure.
Since they increased the bag checks after 9/11, it's hard to get your flasks in it into the stadium now.
Oh man.
I was going to say, Richmond, these playoffs, Vinny and I have always talked about momentum. We'll get into more in detail about it soon, but we saw in these playoffs what the Packers did yesterday. The Detroit Lions finally winning a playoff game since 1992, and so much can happen. So right now, when you look at these teams, who are your Super Bowl teams right now when you look at this field, which is, I think, wide open?
It is wide open. I'd say probably just watching the season from start to finish, I'd probably say, just going off the top, I would think Baltimore and the 49ers are the two best teams I've seen play, all year long. Now, I know stuff can happen in the playoffs, and, I didn't expect Green Bay to come in and play Dallas like they did, but they dominated from start to finish and on both sides of the ball, and to be a 7 seed and then go in and, dominate the game like that, I think that caught a lot of people off guard. But, that's why you play the game. And a lot of times it's just about who catches momentum at the right time, get hot. And some teams, it doesn't matter whether they're on the road or at home. If they got it going, that's just one of those teams you don't want to see, because they got it. They believe it, and it's hard to beat a team like that sometimes. But just based on where everybody's left and based on what I've seen the different teams play throughout the year, the 49ers, and I think it's going to be a repeat of they played a few years ago. Was it in New Orleans where the lights went out or something? And they had to pause.
Beyonce broke the
Queen Bee. You got to tell the Queen Bee, turn the lights off. You can't be breaking chocolate football game.
Hey, do you think Dak Prescott needs a change in scenario? Do you think he needs to be somewhere else? Do you think Mike McCarthy is going to get let go, or do you think they just reset again and say we've won 36 games in the last 3 years. We just can't figure out a way to get to that next level. Some of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, he did struggle, and I watched that game yesterday, and I'll say this: anytime a team doesn't win, and I just don't like this negative. If a team wins, normally the quarterbacks gets credit. If they lose, they definitely get the credit. And sometimes they get more than what they should, and sometimes they get more criticism than what they should. But I think the way the game started off yesterday, Green Bay jumped on. They were down 14 points like that before you knew it. So now, as a play caller, you've got to change whatever your script is, because you've got to try to get back in the game. And then while doing that, you've got to throw the ball typically more than what you want to. And they got in the rhythm. And I think it was one play he just didn't see the safety or didn't look him off. And next thing you know, that's a pick six, or a guy runs it down there. And now you're down 21. So now you're in a situation where you're pressing. You can't really run your offense. And then on the other side, Dallas defense didn't do anything to help them out. So I'm trying to think, did Green Bay punt maybe one time yesterday? Yep. And that's a bad position to be in. And then, like you said, to turn, I think he had 2 picks. I think Dallas might have got an interception, but it's hard to win when you turn the ball over and you get behind like that, and the team doesn't give you an opportunity. They closed the door on them early, and they kept the pressure on them, and they really sustained drives to really eat up the clock, and that forced Dallas to try to press more. So I don't think they will get rid of Dak, but you got to be able to be more efficient when the playoffs come around, and they're in the same position we in. You got to be more efficient, and you got to figure out ways to finish the games. It's good to have a good record during the season, but you want to be productive, and you want to be effective and win games in the playoffs. And they got to figure out a way to fix that bit. I just don't know with Jerry Jones. You just 1 minute he'll say he's the coach, and then if he's not feeling it, he can change his mind and go in a different direction. But yeah, like you said, if you do, you got to kind of almost start over, and then what does a new coach want to do? It's tough. But if it's me, I try to keep that nucleus together and figure out ways to figure that out, how we finish games and finish the season much better than what we've been doing, because that first round exit is tough, especially when, like you say, they've won 36 games the last 3 years, and keep that's no fun. It's no fun for your fan base either, and they'll be calling for changes and stuff like they already have. I mean, Twitter and everything has been blowing up, so that's just part of the process.
Two things. I think right now Jerry Jones is on the phone with Bill Belichick. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't be surprised, though. I would not be surprised.
Trevor might know that now.
I think Trevor might know what's going on. But no, you could have 36 wins, but what do people remember? Playoffs. And this was his Dak's seventh or eighth year. And I don't think he should get all the blame, because when your defense gives up 42, 48 points, that's a huge issue. But he took accountability for it. But I don't know what's going to happen now. It just seems year after year they're in the same predicament, and I don't know. So we'll see.
Yeah, and when people are angry, they don't want to hear about accountability. They don't want to hear. They just want to win. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to hear that. So yeah, we just have to wait and see. Yeah.
I see that, like, Tua gets sometimes he gets hit with that kind of stuff too, and I thought he stayed healthy this whole year. He really showed, the Alabama level of quarterback, right? That you thought when he was coming out this year. He led the league in passing yards, and he had a lot of injuries, like you said, on the offense. Jalen Waddle was hurt, even Tyreek with the ankle there, for a couple games. So, what are some of your thoughts on Tua moving forward?
Yeah, I like Tua, but the same conversation, I've seen that on Twitter about him as well. A lot of fans are not happy. A lot of fans don't believe, he can get the job done, this and that. But, I like him. I just think that when I watched that game Saturday, I thought possibly if we could have made some adjustments, maybe looking at it, and it's easy being an armchair quarterback, but maybe shorten some of the routes up to try to use your short passing game almost like a running game, kind of like the Patriots used to do with Tom Brady at times. He would hit Edelman, or those, he'd have those choice routes and hit him. And it's just as effective because it frustrates the defense, because it's almost like a running game. And if you do it effectively, you're keeping the time of possession and you're keeping them out there for, 13, 14 play drives and eating up the clock and this and that. And I think we just got to do a better job of making adjustments when it seemed like what we're doing at that time is not working. We got to make adjustments for that. And I think if we do that, I think that'll help Tua. That'll just help everything overall. And that's what I see. We just got to make adjustments quicker. That's my opinion.
Yeah. No, I get it. Were you surprised the Chiefs threw the ball so much in the game, in that cold? Or, it's Mahomes and, that's what we should have expected?
Yeah, man, he was on point, and he's taken some, like, Mahomes have taken criticism, but he's had some young receivers that have dropped some balls that should have been caught. But a lot of times they'll look at it and say, well, he's not playing the same way. Well, yeah, really he is, but it's a combination. That's why I say it's a team game. And but no, he was spot on. And that's when you see a guy like that raise his level of play, because he's been there. He's figured out what it takes to win in these situations. He knows that you're going to get so many opportunities, this and that. And for a guy to stay in the game with a cracked helmet, I was like, I'm looking at it on TV. I'm like, I couldn't believe he didn't let him, like, pull him out for a play and then put him back in. But I don't know what the rules are now. They changed now. But he was like, man, just give me a helmet. He put a helmet on, and he didn't even look like he's worried about buckling his chin strap. I said, this guy truly cares about winning. And when you see a guy with that type of attitude, your teammates are going to feed up with, because your quarterback's the leader. He was worried about, hey, I need to get in here because we need to score another touchdown. He's trying to close the game out. And if we do this, we're going to pretty much seal the deal. So I think that trickles down throughout, their whole offensive deal. Him and Kelsey, those are the guys been around the longest, and everybody else feeds off of them. And, yeah, I love me some Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I'm a Dolphin fan, but I love to see great players shine in big moments and this and that. And he just normally doesn't disappoint you.
Yeah, he's just unbelievable to watch. As a Raiders fan, watching him, I'm just want to strangle myself every time. But it's just unbelievable. The talent is just unreal. And then you look at the track record. The 5 AFC championships, three Super Bowl appearances, the 2 wins there, and most likely he's going to play his first road game in Buffalo next week, unless Pittsburgh goes up there in about 10 minutes and upsets them. But I don't see that. But yeah, it's just a very quality guy, and really enjoy watching him play. I see, I looked at the finalists for the Hall of Fame this year, and of course, you're not on there, and I'm always disappointed every time, you don't make it there, as I always let you know. But Big Will Anderson's on there, and
that's my man.
Yeah. I know you got a connection with him. Can you talk a little bit about Will?
Yeah, he's probably about maybe 7 years young. I think Willie came in like 96, maybe 97. But I had an opportunity to play a couple of years with him, and just great guy. His work ethic. I mean, he was already that type of player when I got there, and so just being able to play with a guy like that, 2 tackles like that. I was older, this and that, but I have tremendous respect, and I definitely hope he gets in there and gets the honor that he deserves, because playing for a team like Cincinnati, and this is no slight, but I guess from the 90s to 2000, I mean, they had one of the worst records. So to be it was a couple of guys on that team. I know Willie was one. Corey Dillon was another one that I feel probably should be he should be a Hall of Famer. And on the defense, we had Takeo Spikes. I mean, he was just that guy that kind of led it. We didn't win a lot of games, but guys that played at a high level consistently, those are some of the guys. And I forgot about Chad Johnson. Chad was like a rookie when I first got about Chad, but those. I mean, they had players. It was just getting the mindset changed, and then my last year, then the next year, Marvin Lewis, which I give him a lot of credit for changing the mental part of it and getting it going. And now, they've been to the Super Bowl, this and that. So only played there a couple of years, but Bengal fans are great. They die hard, and they showed me a lot of love. So I'm pulling for Big Willie to get in there and get it done, and I'll be headed back up there again if he gets in there. I was there for Zach last year, and if he gets in there, I'll go up to the Hall of Fame, support my brother. But yeah, he's definitely deserving of it, and I'm proud he made it. I think he made the semifinals maybe last year, the year before, but he's a finalist. Hopefully he gets that call or that knock at the door and gets in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'll be there to support him. I'm definitely happy for him.
That's awesome. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, Richmond, I got a question about, some comments from Mr. Tom Brady that went viral a few months ago, but he said that he thinks there's a lot of mediocrity in today's NFL, and he didn't see the excellence now that he saw in the past. And I'm curious from your perspective, obviously the game has changed quite a bit versus when you played, but do you think there's any validity, behind those comments, or do you sort of have a different perspective on where he's coming from? Because when I was, reading comments and, from past players, I saw a lot of mixed reviews about what he said. So I'm curious if you have any thoughts on what he said.
I would tend to agree with Tom, and Tom, he got a taste of both. You know what I'm saying? He got a taste of the way we used to play, and then he was in the transition. So, now you really can't touch the quarterback, and I get that now. normally the highest paid position, and you just can't afford to lose those guys because not that you don't have the money to pay them, but it just really affects the outcome of your season a lot of time if you lose a guy, high caliber guy like that. So I get that bit. And the first thing I thought about Trevor was it was a play this year. I'm trying to remember the teams that were playing, but a fullback went and blocked a D lineman, and they threw like a not roughing the passer, but unnecessary roughness penalty on him. And I was like, how in the hell can that happen? But they actually called it. I can't remember the game, but I was like, and I think, and the only thing that makes me think is I think it was right after that, around that time, Tom Brady made that statement. I was like, there still has to be some type of physicality to the game. And it wasn't like it was a late hit. It wasn't like the guy back was turned. It wasn't like, the play was over and he just went and unleveled on him. And, it's different. So I'm telling you, I didn't understand that one. I was like, I don't know. So I get where he says that, and I agree with him. I mean, I do believe in protecting player safety, but at the same time, what is too much protection? You know what I'm saying? It's almost like you'll have guys hesitant to go make a physical football play because they're not going to get fined or this and that. Or if you lay off a guy, then the next thing the guy runs by you, you get to the sideline. Now you feeling everybody's looking at you like why you didn't, do something. So it puts the players in a position to where their decision making could be compromised because they want to make the play, but if they don't make it the right way, you could be fined or something for unnecessary roughness or something, and still they get the yardage that can still cost you the game. So I struggle with that as well. So I know exactly where Mr. Brady is coming from.
I look at it that I think coaches have an easier way of getting information than they did when you played, right? There's just so much media and social media and then analytics tied to everything, and everything's a computerized generated world. I see it for myself when I play fantasy football. Years ago, the guy that studied the hardest and had all the magazines would usually be the winner of their fantasy championship. Now guys show up on draft day, haven't looked at a single thing, but have everything in front of them and can, have like the perfect draft. Do you see that as part of this parity and all this as well?
It does. I do, and you're right. But it's like people crave more and more information. The more you give them, the more they want. And I can remember, I think when I first came in the league, it was basically ESPN's Fox Sports might have been around, but I don't think we had the NFL network. It's like you have so many different outlets for that sport that's covering it that it's just on overabundance of information. And then you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you got all these social media outlets. And then, like you say, you got PFF, everybody just giving this. And even with, like I said, fantasy football, they give you all the stats. And even, I'm going to just say like maybe DraftKings, but you have the little betting sites, hey, $5, we give you $200. But I think you can get a lot of information to try to make an informed decision. So, okay, well, I'm going to pick this, and let it ride. So and the thing that I really struggled with was this year when I heard the Dolphins was doing Hard Knocks. I think this is the first season they've actually done it during the actual regular season. Normally it was in the preseason, this and that, and that just didn't set well. I was like, man, I don't know if I would have wanted to be around that. It's too many cameras. You got to watch what you say. It's just
puts a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, they've done a good job with it, from watching the episodes and this and that. But I was like, man, I don't know if I would want that much attention around. You know what I'm saying? Because even when we would interview in the locker room on Wednesdays and Thursdays, a certain time they would let the media in there and say we could be talking in the corner, me, you, and Mike, Vin, and then they interviewing Trevor, but they got the little cassette recorders they recording, and I could say something. He's interviewing Trevor, but he picks it up on the record. So you always had to be, aware of stuff like that. And when I saw that, I was like, but it's going to continue to go because since they had such a success with the Dolphins, it's kind of being like a pilot during the season. Every year it's going to be teams. It's going to continue to get more and more coverage because that's what people want.
Yeah. It's really well done, and there's a lot of good personalities on the Dolphin team, and I didn't know a lot of these guys, you just know them, but watching it, like seeing Mostert's family, seeing McDaniel's wife and daughter come in, Alec Ingold, what he gives back to the community, like all those things that, you don't know of, and it's being able to see it and then having those personalities. And then just like I said, the way everything is done in the locker rooms and all that, the professionalism that I've seen in each of the position rooms and all that, it's been really interesting and just a great show. I think it was just really well done, and I think you're right because of that. You're gonna have it ongoing, similar to how you have it, in the preseason. So definitely something. Mike, anything for Richmond?
No, I was just laughing because with Hard Knocks, of course, with the Jets, they said, oh, the last time the Jets were on Hard Knocks with Rex Ryan, the Jets made the playoffs, so a lot to look forward to. Then, of course, our Hard Knocks, and they don't make the playoffs. So I got screwed.
Oh, no.
But I was going to ask you, Richmond, you played with the great Dan Marino. I was young watching him, amazing talent. How do you feel he's going to be perceived? Because you look at him compared to other quarterbacks, and even though he didn't win a Super Bowl, people don't realize how impactful this guy was and the kind of competition that he went against. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's just the way sports evolve, and I think you brought up a great example. And the one that I thought about is the LeBron James, Michael Jordan debate. Most of us probably know about Michael Jordan because we were older. A lot of the younger generation, they don't know about, Michael Jordan and what he did. And, you could go back and watch some videos or something, but, you see that firsthand, and we can more compare like a LeBron and a Michael Jordan. And to me, they play really two different positions. I think LeBron probably fits more of a comparison with Magic Johnson, the way, he facilitates and this and that, but, the analysts or whatever, they're going to spin it however they want to. But I think that's just the way, sports evolve. It's kind of like, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning were those guys. But back then it was, it was Marino, it was Elway, it was Jim Kelly. You have Montana, you have Steve Young, you have Warren Moon, this and that. So when you don't know about the era, and then before that, it was some guys. So it's just, I think that's just the way we are. And I think that's why you'll always have people disagreeing because we're like, oh no. And if you didn't really see the guy, they played way back then. They wasn't doing nothing back then. That's just, man, I see it all the time in the barbershop. So, but I think, the guys that played in that era, I think they understand. And I think a lot of times they put so much weight on a quarterback winning a Super Bowl, but you can't win a Super Bowl by yourself. And a lot of times, Marino was part of really good offenses, but didn't have really great defenses. And it's a team sport, and that's why I try to get people to see. But a lot of times they just, oh no, this guy did this, but it's not apples to apples. So, but he's definitely one of the best to ever lace him up and play the game. Yeah.
I felt he never had a running back. I felt they never gave him somebody to take off the pressure of like a pass rush against him. I just, that's just my feeling. Go ahead, Richmond.
and you're probably right. And the thing was, and a lot of times, we would get criticized for, not being able to run the ball. But when me and Keith Sims was drafted, it was understood we was brought there to protect Marino, to let him do what he does well, and that was throw the football. So, I tell people, I was like, hey man, we didn't call the plays. Whatever he calls, we go out and execute. That was our job. We couldn't go over there and say, well, no, we're gonna run this play, Dan. So scratch that. Don't worry about what they send in from the sideline. We want to run the football, so that's what we're gonna do. So that's what we did, and you got to deal with the hand you dealt, and that's what I tell people. So, but yeah, definitely having more of a balanced attack, I agree, probably would have definitely helped us out, and we probably could have went further at times. But yeah, that was one of the things that we were lacking.
Yeah. Trevor, anything else?
Well, my one last question was similar to Mike's questions. You obviously, had the privilege of playing and protecting Dan Marino, but what was it like coming into the league and playing for a great coach in Don Shula as well?
It was, Trevor, it was actually good. I came out of Texas A&M and was fortunate to get drafted by Miami, because the main thing I said, Lord, just send me somewhere where it's warm. I didn't want to go to no cold weather team. So when the good Lord had Don Shula call my mama's house, and I answered that phone, he said, "Are you ready to be a Dolphin?" I said, Miami. I said, yes, sir. I mean, that was a blessing in disguise. But on a more serious note, getting drafted by a guy like Don Shula, you learn so much that even now, even though I'm retired, he taught us about being charitable, giving back to people that was less fortunate, participating in just being disciplined, being on time, the mental mistakes, the penalties, don't do things to beat yourselves, this, that. And so even after he stopped coaching, he used some of those same implements when he was doing his business, steakhouses and stuff like that he was successful. So he had designed a plan that really now some of the stuff I still do now, but it was because of guys like Don Shula that instilled that in me at an early age. And, you just reap the benefits, not from just your playing days, but even after that. So anytime you get a coach that pours that much into you, you got to be definitely grateful. And I even tell my high school coaches and, guys, everybody plays a part in that. And one thing I figured out is once you coach a guy, even though it's years later, it's still like a son or something to you, because you never really most of the time get rid of most of the coaches I've had. So I still interact with a lot of my college coaches and stuff like that. So it's a life journey. You mentoring, boys to men, but even when they become men, they still look up to you for advice, mentorship, and all that. So I was definitely fortunate to be mentored by one of the best to ever do it.
That's great. Great to hear. It's great having you on again. We really appreciate it, giving us this time. When I reached out, in December, we were probably hoping that we'd be talking about the Dolphins heading, into the divisional round or maybe even a championship game. But maybe we'll do it this time again next year and have a different conversation. I think that sounds more like a plan, right?
Y'all make sure y'all crack Trevor's crystal ball over there. I think he's been rubbing on it or something. Got my Dolphins up out of the playoffs. I don't know. Got to watch some Patriots. I don't know. I got to keep my eye on him. Yeah. No, but on a serious note, that sounds good. It's always good to talk football with you guys. I always have a great time. So thanks for having me on the show and catching up and all that. And then maybe I'll pick on Mike's Jets next year or something like that. How about that?
You could always do that. A lot of material.
And if you're in the New York, New Jersey area, please let us know, because we'd like to have a steak with you or some of your wife's chili you can bring and we can share it.
We can break bread. That's always a good plan with me. That sounds good to me.
Absolutely. All right, Richmond. Thank you for your time. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. Richmond Webb there, great guy. You know, one of the best offensive tackles I saw in the '90s. You know, I don't like to harp too much on it with him, you know, guys, but you know, like I read his bio, you know, 2-time first team All Pro, 2-time second team All Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler,
Yeah.
you know, all decades team in the '90s. I mean, to me that's Hall of Fame worthy. But we'll see as time goes on. But as far as a person and everything that comes along with it, he's just one of the good guys.
Sure is.
100%.
He really is. All right. Where should we dive into, Mike? What do you want to talk about? Want to talk about Bill Belichick with Trevor? How he's feeling about him?
I would love to hear his thoughts on Mr. Bill. So.
Let's hear. So Trevor, give us the 24-year feelings on Bill.
Yeah.
No, but in all seriousness, you know, he comes in there, you know, early in his career. You know, not a lot of success, even, you know, the first couple of years, and then Bledsoe gets hurt, Brady takes over, and the rest is history. But, you know, give me some of your feelings, you know, as Belichick as a whole. Don't just give me like certain times, but as a whole.
Yeah, well, from what I read and from what I hear online, he just demands greatness out of his players, and the way he commands the locker room, I feel like it's very unique. And you know, we obviously get a very, you know, minor glimpse of it because he obviously doesn't share stuff with the media. But the rare stories that, you know, we are able to hear, you know, he is, you know, obviously he demands greatness. He's a football genius, but also he's a player's coach in his own way. It seems like a lot of the players that, you know, have played for him in the past, they all seem to love him, and they love his style of coaching. And I think his style of coaching is very unique. The culture that he created in New England, I don't know if that will ever, you know, if that will ever be replicated again. The whole saying, do your job, that all came from Belichick. And he was able to sort of have all the players, all 53 men on that roster sort of buy into it. So obviously, you know, it's hard to see him go. I think the last 4 or 5 years since Brady left, it's obviously been a roller coaster. But yeah, I think the time, you know, it was coming. He's getting older, and he, you know, I think Robert Kraft was ready for a change. And Robert Kraft is an owner in himself where he demands greatness too. And he's so accustomed to the winning culture. I think he was ready, you know, for a change. So, you know, it's tough because it's hard to see a legend like that leave your organization. But you could also make the argument that maybe it was time for a change. So those are sort of my immediate thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Walsh. No, I mean Bill Walsh and Al Davis both believed in no one should coach a team more than 10 years. That was both their beliefs. Now, again, that's a little more old school kind of thought process, but they felt, you know, guys would wear out their time. You know, things would change. You know, you have to flip rosters. Hard to keep things together. I think one of the things that helped Belichick was the ability for Brady to stay as youthful as he was for so long, and being so successful for so long, because, and you know, NFL quarterbacks usually have a short shelf life, right? There's very few that play at a high level, you know, after the age of 30, then 35. I mean, you can look it up. We know Brady has like all the records for a guy over 40. So I think that had a lot to do with his success of staying where he is, because he's able to keep the franchise quarterback. But my big question is, because I you know, maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but I have no clue, is with him leaving, who's responsible for personnel now? Like, who's going to be the guy on draft day to make a lot of those calls? Like, who's that guy now?
I think it's going to be a combination of a few people.
Okay.
You know, there's rumors going around that we will not have a formal GM by, you know, April for the draft, which, you know, in my opinion, I think that's a questionable decision on the organization's part. But there's two guys, Matt Groh and Elliot Wolf. They've sort of been involved in the organization for a few years now. They're younger, sort of disciples of Belichick. So it seems like they're going to have a lot of, the decision making when it comes to player personnel moves. And we'll also probably see the Crafts get involved too when it comes to the draft and the players sort of they want to see in the organization. So those are sort of the immediate names that come to my mind when I sort of think of the player personnel decisions.
Got it.
I was just going to say, based on your comment, what I saw with this whole thing with Kraft and Belichick, from my eyes, I just saw the mutual respect between them both. And I know this decision was difficult, but as you said, Vinny, if you're saying that a coach should only stay for 10 years, I mean, he was there 20. I mean, that's an eternity.
Yeah.
And what this guy accomplished was incredible. But you see that. I was actually watching when they got their 6th ring. Robert Kraft had everyone to his house, and it was just awesome seeing that and what they accomplished as a team. And listen, being a Jet fan, obviously there were days I wanted to throw up, but you have to just take a step back and say, wow, as a true football fan, you're just amazed at what this team did and how they did it and what they built. So, I mean, I saw that in their press conference.
And I agree with Charles Woodson. If it wasn't for him, Tom Brady would have never been at the level that he's at, because the Tuck rule, Charles Woodson was the reason behind the whole thing. So,
You're right.
So, all right. Very cool stuff there. And I'm very interested in seeing, where they move in terms of quarterback, personnel, trade-ups. Will they move? Caleb Williams just declared for the draft today. So he's officially, on the clock, as they would say. He looks like he's going to be the consensus number 1. Do the Bears take him? Do they make a trade? Where does Justin Fields go? All that kind of stuff. So it's gonna be fun. We'll definitely get into that later on and talk about that as we get closer to draft. But I want to talk a little bit more about what we've seen over the weekend. Mike, I don't know which quarterback you want to start with, CJ Stroud or Jordan Love. I mean, your choice, but they're both unbelievable.
What do they both have in common? They're both young quarterbacks
Mm-hmm.
that have taken that leap. So I think there's kind of a correlation with both of them. But look what Jordan Love did yesterday. Vinny, and I think most people, Cowboys were lucky enough to have a home game yesterday. Before I forget, I want to give our good friend Kyle Mansky a shout out. Kyle's been on the show 4 times, diehard Packers fan, flew to that game and got to see that. I can't imagine how great he feels today. And I told him, I texted him, I go, now you got to fly to San Francisco. They need you. But what the Packers, Dallas just seemed in disarray the whole time. And it was shocking. But here was Jordan Love, who just stayed focused, found his receivers, right plays at the right time. They got off to that early lead, and there was no turning back. They pretty much dominated the whole game. Aaron Jones, he had that first touchdown, and that was it. It was just I couldn't believe my eyes, honestly, because Trevor, before the game, Vinny and I thought, as most people, that Dallas was going to win this game.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anyone that really had the Packers aside from their diehard fans, but even they were probably thinking this is going to be an extremely difficult task.
There's probably very limited money line bets on the Packers yesterday.
But, I just wrote, you just look at what he found in Romeo Dobbs. What a game for him, right?
He was open every time he threw the ball, he was wide open.
It just seemed, was the Dallas, here you have to ask yourself, was the Dallas defense that bad? Or was the Green Bay offense that good? But I think Jordan Love, once he got that first touchdown, he gained confidence. And we always talk about momentum. And that's what you need, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm crazy here, and I'll say it, that there's no reason why the Packers can't give the 49ers a fight. There's no reason. They play like that. They have the confidence going in, and 49ers had a bye, and they're flying high. I'm not saying they're winning the game by any means, but I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. Agree or disagree?
I completely agree. And I think starting with the Cowboys, it was just, the defense just looked like in shambles from the start. And it seemed like there was a lot of problems in that secondary. I know Gilmore was obviously banged up, but Jordan Love just seemed like he was finding throws left and right. He could throw it to anyone he wanted to at any point in the game. And I give credit to a lot of the young receivers that they got. Like you said, Dobbs, he's a stud. So is Jaden Reed, Christian Watson. He's got options. So like you said, if he's firing on all cylinders and if that offense is clicking, like I don't see why they couldn't. I'm not saying they're going to beat the 49ers at all, but I don't see why they can't sort of hang in there and compete with them, especially when they're running the ball like they were yesterday too. I mean, Aaron Jones, was it 2 or 3 touchdowns he had on the day? I know AJ Dillon's he was injured, but they have options at the running back position too. And if you can establish the run like that, and if you can pass the ball like that as well, I mean, they're going to be competitive.
Yeah, Aaron Jones was unbelievable yesterday. Now I know he's from Texas and he gets extra pumped up to play against Dallas, but he was incredible. Like you said, all these young receivers. Reed didn't even have a catch yesterday. They scored 42 points on offense, which is unbelievable. And like Richmond said, they only punted once until they took Love out of the game at that point when it was 48-16, I think. They only punted once, and that was the second possession that they had. They went on. They scored literally on every possession, including the pick 6. I know you don't want to blame the quarterback for everything, and I know the defense wasn't great, but when it's really crunch time and Dak Prescott is 2 for 5 in the playoffs, which is the worst record of any starting quarterback with a minimum of 5 starts, you got to start thinking, where are you going to move on here at this point? The guy has not shown the ability to make plays when you need them to. Now I get it. They're more used to a little more simplified offense, rely on their defense kind of year, but an NFL quarterback, when it comes down to it, has to make plays, has to. And they had an opportunity when it was, I think it was 20 to, I think it was 20-0.
20
before the pick 6, right?
Yeah.
They could have, or 21, whatever it was. They had an opportunity to score and then receive the ball in the second half. And at that point, you would feel they're back in. He throws the pick 6. It's 27-0. Game's over. Game's over at that point.
Yeah.
It's just like there's not enough possessions left. They come out, they score, Dallas scores, but then, right away, it was a field goal. Right away, boom, another touchdown. It's 34-10. And before you know, it's over. And then there was, I know it's not something to be talked about, but at 34-16, and they get the 10-yard offensive interference penalty going for 2, why are you kicking the extra point? Even though it was missed, but why are you kicking an extra point? You're still, need 3 scores at that point. I get it. Maybe you want 2 touchdowns in a field, but I don't know, certain decisions that McCarthy made, like not going for it on these situations, and I'm just like, you got to put the pedal to the metal and try to do everything you can to get back in the game. But again, those are moot points because the game was so blown out. It's not even like the discussion, right? But Jordan Love, to me, I saw the stat right before we came on. In the last 9 games, including yesterday, he's got 21 touchdowns and 1 interception in the last 9 games, and they're 7-2. So he has been on fire the last 9 games. It'll be very interesting to see what the 49ers do to him on a defensive side of the field. I think Green Bay is going to have a very hard time stopping San Francisco because they're a little weak still on the defense. You could see it a little bit, but I'm very interested in seeing that offense because to both of you guys' point, defense had no sacks, no turnovers, did nothing. They did 0. They gave up 42 points. I'm looking. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but if I'm Seattle, or Atlanta or whoever, Carolina, whoever these teams are interested in bringing Dan Quinn in, I have some reservations as hire him as my head coach after what I saw yesterday. I don't know. Maybe it's me.
No, you're. How can you be confident about that?
Right.
But a lot, what people are saying to defend him. Oh, he was too busy talking to these other teams that he wasn't focused calling the game. Give me a break. Like,
come on. You know how many Super Bowl winning coordinators get jobs? Come on, that's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, the excuses. As we talked about, what do people remember? They remember the playoffs. They don't remember the regular season. And this is where the Cowboys had faltered year after year after year.
Yeah.
And that's why people are bent out and they want change. Yeah. I can't imagine that Mike McCarthy is going to be the coach next year. I can't.
No.
I can't.
And in my opinion, it's definitely not a player's issue too. I mean, they have 7+ Pro Bowlers on the roster, so they clearly have the talent. Maybe Dak Prescott is a question mark, but I think what you're saying, Mike, I completely agree. I think it's got to be a coaching issue, and there's got to be some changes there because they clearly have a lot of talent on offense, on defense, and then they go out and perform like that in the playoffs. I mean, it's a massive, it's got to be a massive question mark for Jerry Jones. I saw a video of him after the game, and he looked totally,
He said it was the most shocking loss he's ever seen. So for him to say that, and he's going to make that coaching change.
Yes,
I think Dak's going to get another life there now because whoever the coach is, he did have a good regular season, right? But they want a coach that could say, what do we do to get them to that next level, right? So I don't know. We'll see.
The only thing Dallas could do with the quarterback position and not set themselves into a quote-unquote rebuild mode is do what like Rams and the Lions did, right? You trade your quarterback for my quarterback because, my quarterback doesn't want to be here and my quarterback's underachieving kind of thing, right? So, is there a team out there? Maybe, they would have to really dive into it and talk to other teams. Maybe it's Miami, right? Like, we'll take Tua and you can have that kind of thing. Who knows? But at the same time, you guys are right. The coaching, there's no way. If McCarthy comes back, I'll be 100%.
How can you do that?
It's not going
to happen.
Especially after last year's performance, too.
Yeah.
I feel like he was already on the hot.
It's not going to happen.
This kind of solidified it.
Yeah. And listen, you're telling me Dan Quinn had a bad game because he's interviewing. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Isn't that ridiculous? People are making excuses.
That's not an excuse. Eric Bieniemy interviewed 40 teams last year and they won the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Through the years, all these guys. Come on, that's ridiculous. Both Eagles coordinators were in the Super Bowl last year, and both got head coaching jobs, and they didn't lose because of coaching. Well, maybe the defensive side of the ball, but still, that's not the reason they lost because Jonathan Gannon went to interview with Arizona. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. I just aggravating to hear that. So, all right. CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans, Houston. I thought Cleveland. I was a little concerned that Cleveland's defense didn't transfer on the road, but at the same time, I'm like, this team, put a walloping on them a couple of weeks ago. I know Stroud didn't play, but I thought they would be able to move the ball like they did. I thought at 14-10 in the first half. I thought I was right. I thought me and Mike's parlay was going to look nice, and then all of a sudden, boom, game over, 45-14, pick sixes. But Stroud in that first half, unbelievable. Rookie quarterback, rookie coach. Last time a rookie quarterback and rookie coach won a playoff game, Mike, was?
Who was it?
Mark Sanchez and Richard.
Oh, whoa. It was a Jets history? Wow. Positive Jets history? I love it.
That was the last time. Hopefully the Texans don't turn into that. By the way, talking about the Jets and dysfunction and all the crazy stuff they did during Mark Sanchez's time, I thought when Belichick went to the mic,
the Tim Tebow comment.
Yeah, that was the best. He goes,
yeah, he has like that sarcastic sense of humor.
That was great.
Oh.
That was great. But I love CJ Stroud. I thought, I'm pretty sure, Mike, I said it on the podcast a bunch of times. I didn't like Young going number 1 at Carolina. I thought he was too small. I thought he was going to have a tough time translating to the NFL. I think they didn't do him any justice by hiring Frank Reich. I think Frank Reich is just not head coach material for the NFL. But Stroud goes to Houston. D'Amico Ryans brings some of the 49er staff with him there. Bobby Slowick's the offensive coordinator, from the whole Kyle Shanahan regime. And here we go. Houston, looking like a team that could potentially go into Baltimore or Kansas City, depending on the game today, and see what happens.
Yeah.
You like him?
I think CJ Stroud is going to be, in the next 5 years, one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL.
Agreed.
And I think a lot of that, I think you got to give credit to Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and a lot of the, young receivers that he has around him too. I think he's surrounded by a lot of great talent. So I think Houston has a lot to look forward to in the next coming years because it's looking very promising already.
100%.
And by the way, Buffalo's winning 14-0 in the first quarter. So
My friend who's a Steelers fan, he wrote to me like the first couple minutes, like, what the F?
yeah, well,
Dude, you knew this was coming.
Buffalo is that team that everyone thinks can upset Baltimore, but we'll see. The other thing is Josh Allen is 0-3 in road playoff games in his career. So we'll see if he can go into Baltimore and win. But he's going to have to worry about Pat Mahomes next week coming into Buffalo, which will be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun. I think, think about it. Houston and Baltimore, right? That'll be a real fun, interesting game. And then, of course, Buffalo Chiefs. I mean, how many times have Allen and Mahomes played each other? It's like three times maybe in the playoffs already, something like that. So AFC, we'll see. Who do you like tonight? Tampa, Philly.
I gotta go Tampa. I think Philly's just going in a different direction, but at the same time, I keep saying you get a clean slate in the playoffs, but I can't see it. I think that Tampa Bay, I like Tampa Bay. I do. I don't know what Philly's had some really bad injuries. I don't know. I can't see it. I can't.
All right, Trevor.
I think it's going to be very close. I'm going to go with the Eagles, though. I know it's going to be pouring in Tampa tonight, so I think the Eagles with AJ Brown now. I think they're going to lean more towards on the run game and maybe establish their own, and it's going to be a close game. But I'll be shocked if the Eagles lose this game. But also based on the last few weeks of the season, they looked terrible. So who knows?
It's going to
be the Eagles now, but
yeah, it's going to have to be a DeAndre Swift game for Philadelphia. So and
utilize him.
I think the Eagles have played every single game this season in the rain, so they should be okay. Like every game I watched in primetime that they played, it was raining. It was unbelievable. But I think week 3 they played each other, and if I'm right, the Eagles had over 200 yards rushing. So I would expect them to try to do the same thing, and we'll see if Baker even makes it onto the field. I know he'll play, but he walked off that field last week like someone beat him with a baseball bat. He had an ankle injury, the chest injury, head hit the turf, all this stuff, like crazy stuff. By the way, did you see Stafford get knocked out on the field yesterday?
Yeah, that was nuts.
His eyes rolled into the back of his head.
That was a crazy hit.
I was shocked they let him back in there.
And he got up and walked right off. Like if they didn't show that replay, you would have never known that he was like.
Let's talk about that real quick. Both quarterbacks, Goff and Stafford, they were really good, and it was an offensive battle the whole time. Both of them, right? I feel they both were good. They competed. Yeah. It was a fun game.
Yeah, I was surprised McVay didn't go for it on 4th down with 4 minutes to go. I'm surprised they punted.
I agree. And Puka Nacua,
how about that rookie? Woo!
Yeah, I thought I took Cooper Kupp's receiving yards yesterday because I thought he was going to show up, but
he was the decoy.
Yeah, exactly. He was the decoy.
He was the decoy. It was a good game plan by the Rams. I found it funny. Matt Stafford has four girls, little girls, and they watch all the Lions games on top of watching the Rams games. So when they were in the stands, for the game, the daughters asked the mother, who are we supposed to root for today?
Oh, that's funny.
And she's like, well, we're supposed to root for Daddy today. Okay. Oh, that was great. But
it's hard to not be happy for Detroit, though. I mean, seeing how passionate
seeing the fan base.
I forgot to ask Richmond because Dan Campbell went to Texas A&M like he did.
Oh, okay.
Make some of his feelings about Campbell if he knows him. I think Campbell's probably close to 10 years younger, but still there's always usually that college connection somehow, some way. But I'll have to reach out to him and ask him. But yeah, I mean, listen, Dan Campbell came in there. Everyone thought he was a maniac in his first press conference. They thought, this guy is just like too over the top. A lot of crazy fourth downs that they go for throughout the season, all this stuff. But I thought they had a really good game plan yesterday. I thought they executed. I thought Goff was much better than I expected. Stafford. We felt, Mike, that they were going to throw for a lot of yards because the weakness in Detroit was corner coverage, which still was. But they did enough to pull it off. But
yeah, and I want to say another thing. I was very obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown was amazing, but former Ram Josh Reynolds, he had a nice game too, and
he seemed like he was open every play too, just like
he did.
Like every Green Bay Packer.
I know.
I don't know. There was the one play to the tight end, Musgrave. And Love got partially hit and like threw the ball up. The ball stayed like in the air. It felt like an eternity, and there was still no one around him, and he scored the touchdown. I'm like, how wide open what kind of coverage are they running? I'm still shocked the way Dallas played defense yesterday. I'm just shocked that Micah Parsons did nothing. They essentially did nothing on defense. They did nothing.
Yeah, no, I was shocked too. I thought Dallas was going to go in there, and I thought it was going to be a blowout. So I was surprised too.
Craziness. All right. Anything else, Mike, on the agenda?
I think we covered it. Great episode throughout. Just a couple show notes, and we'll be putting this on Instagram at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Our big 100th episode is coming up.
Yeah.
We secured the date. It's going to be February 21st, which is a Wednesday. It's going to be live in New York at Turntable, right by the Empire State Building.
34-36 West 32nd Street, 5th floor. Again, 34-36 West 32nd Street, 5th floor, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I have a whole list of appetizers and specials that Michael will post about, but there's all kinds of food specials. We have some giveaways. We're going to have a lot of fun. So it's all there.
Yeah, we're excited about it. So crazy how fast 2 years goes, Vin.
Yeah. Trevor, any last minute comments or anything?
Oh, I mean, I just want to say thanks to you guys for having me on. I know Mike and I have been talking about this for a little bit, so I'm glad it kind of came to fruition. So it was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you on with Richmond. He really enjoyed having you on. It was a lot of cool questions that you gave to him, and gave you a little jab there with your crystal ball and something. So no, it's great having you on. We appreciate it. Good insight, on the Patriots. I look forward to seeing this upcoming draft and how they redevelop the team and which way they go. So it'll be fun. You're a Red Sox fan?
I am a Red Sox fan too. Yeah.
So we're gonna have to let's do some Yankee Red Sox in the spring. Yes. I think both teams are going to finish exactly where they finished again last year. The way things are starting to turn out, but we'll see.
I wouldn't be surprised.
All right, guys. Thank you. Oh, by the way, I forgot to say hello to KKFI in Kansas City. We'll be talking to you guys more as this probably next week. We'll have some conversations if Pat Mahomes goes up to Buffalo and wins. But we'll see. All right. See you guys.
See you next time. Bye.